Let's get more now on the terrorist responsible for the Manchester Arena bomb. This is front page news this morning after he was rescued by the Royal Navy from Tripoli. We go to New York, security expert Mikey Kay there for us this morning. The real controversy about all of this, Mikey, of course, so there he was on the security forces' radar. They evacuate him from Tripoli. Why didn't he stay there? Why didn't he remain on that radar?
Morning, Eamon. Morning, Kay. I think there's a couple of important pieces of information here that we need to understand when it comes to the timeline. The first one is that during the time of the what is called in military parlance a non-combatant evacuation operation, which is effectively there's an onus on the UK government to be able to withdraw UK citizens from countries where there is impending conflict. That particular incident, Salman Abedi wasn't a person of interest. So the book had effectively closed on Salman Abedi prior to him visiting Libya and prior to the evacuation operation occurring. The radicalization, which subsequently led to the Manchester bombing, is reportedly to have occurred after Salman Abedi was evacuated from Libya. So at the time the Royal Navy participated in this evacuation operation, Salman Abedi had been a closed book case. So I think where we need to be looking here in terms of questions that we as journalists and experts need to be asking is, why was the book closed on Salman Abedi, and how did he become radicalized? So there needs to be an investigation into the process of assessment that I think is really important and what we need to be getting at here.
Yeah, the underlying narrative, I suppose, to all of this is, though, from the paper, how many other Abedis are there out there? And this whole question of the screening of refugees.
Yeah, I mean, the process of radicalization, Eamon, it's like an onion. You've got to take a 360-degree approach to understanding how radicalization occurs and countering radicalization. So, for example, bombs, bullets and mortars in air campaigns in Syria and Iraq and Libya isn't going to address in the main the process of radicalization, because as we've seen in America, as we've seen in the UK, as we've seen across France especially, most of the terrorists, most of the Islamic State sympathizers own French passports, UK passports, US passports. It's an organic homegrown problem. So what you have to do is you have to look broader, and you have to look at how the process of radicalization is occurring. Propaganda channels, telegram channels, the internet, globalization, migration channels of individuals leaving the UK or France and going to Syria or North Africa to fight for jihadists, the process of them coming back in again, looking at the question of statehood. There's so many questions that need to be asked. And when you start asking those questions, what automatically precipitates from that, Eamon, is where is the apportionment of budget or finances and resources?
I mean, that's what I was going to say, Mikey. Is the brutal problem that we just don't have the resources to monitor all the people that might potentially become a risk at some point, however devastating the consequences of missing someone is?
Well, absolutely. Okay. It's certainly not a bottomless pit when it comes to cash. And if you look at if you just look at the problem on today's streets in terms of what the intelligence authorities and the counter-terrorism authorities are looking at, you've currently got around 500 live operations going on trying to track 3,000 suspects or persons of interest. And then on top of that, you've got 20,000 previous closed-book persons of interest, which is what Salman Abedi was, that I think needs to be looked at again to make a reassessment